you need to have an element of trust within your team to unlock different AI.
I feel like I've kind of left this a few IQ points smarter than I came into it.
Remove your M dashes at least, please.
M-hate.
Yeah, M-hate.
M-hate. We're not having it. Welcome back to Generate Growth, the podcast where we talk about all things ecom, growth, and marketing.
Marketing,
right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, not a good start. That's because you've got into my head already with the do the Big Brother intro, and now I'm just like,
yeah. Now you panicked.
I want to do it, but I feel like I'll butcher the accent. So maybe I shouldn't.
Give it a go. Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time. So Stress Awareness Month this month. So obviously we're here to kind of theme every single episode around a different area of stress in kind of like the marketing space. So obviously this week we promised to have that conversation about Shopify, about AI, about creating those tech stacks. So how are you feeling about that today?
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? I think there's been a lot of AI advancements in the last month, to be honest, that we've really tried to adopt within the agency. So speaking about those candidly and what we're doing will be really interesting.
So you attended a few events last week.
I did.
And one was specifically on AI. How was that?
So it was AI in leadership role, which I think is a very fascinating subject at this moment in time. What rang true to me the most was that you need to have an element of trust within your team to unlock different AI tools within your agency. Mm-hmm. I think for me, I have trust for the team. That's a simple one. So then it's about giving creative freedom in a framework. Yeah. So we obviously deal with a lot of clients in sensitive subjects such as financials. Mm-hmm. Do I feel comfortable that potentially all clients, data is getting uploaded into a piece of software? Not necessarily. So we make sure that we've got frameworks in place which, one, the clients feel uncomfortable with, and before unlocking any AI, we have that conversation with them. And two, that I'm giving a strict instruction to the team to make sure they know what I want them to achieve within the software. So I think from a data handling perspective, it's super important to keep having conversations. From a framework perspective, and building SOPs and making sure that people have the creative freedom, that is also important. But really understanding that human and AI is the approach that we're having in the agency right now. And I recommend for every single business.
Because I think that's the thing, isn't it? AI gets a lot of bad rap.
A lot. And it's fair. I think what we've seen is people turn into mindless drones, and the content that we see turned out on pretty much every social media platform has been written by AI. There's you can see it littered across the emotion is kind of ripped out of everything that we're trying to communicate these days. So I think that's where, as a leader, I'm really trying to challenge myself into going, okay, I can use it as a tool to ideate, and I think that's where Claude is excellent. Well, I'm sure we're going to touch on that later, and come up with the ideas. But I still want my voice to be heard. I don't want to be replaced by AI just yet.
Yeah. So if we're kind of like stripping away the bullshit, that's a key focus for us at Generate.
It is.
If we're stripping away from the social media bullshit and we're stripping back basically the way that we use it and ensure that we're using it in the correct way.
Yeah.
What is kind of like the key thing that Shopify is doing in AI compared to platforms like Claude and ChatGPT, etc.?
So Shopify have unlocked Shopify Magic.
Ooh.
We all have fancy words for AI these days, and that's basically like their AI brain, right? We're not gonna dress it up more than that. Mm-hmm. And I think what's important to understand is there's two different forms of AI. There's deep learning AI and there's machine learning AI. Machine learning AI is where you have the data, you load it, and you allow it to kind of come up with different reports and things like that. And deep learning is where, I'm sure you've run a few deep learning tests yourself, so I'm going to kind of pass this over to you. But do you understand what deep learning is?
Yeah. So from my perspective, deep learning has been like a research assistant. Exactly. It kind of takes me back to like my academia days where, and God, I wish I did have it during then as well. It would have made things a lot easier. It kind of runs off for like half an hour and basically produces this phenomenal research in terms of like the intricacies of what you're looking for. Right.
And basically, Shopify AI Magic does both sides of the coin. So it does a data deep dive so that you can look into understanding where there's opportunities within your brand, but it also does that other side of things where it starts to really learn who you are as a brand as well. And I think that is so important in understanding so many different things, from like the financials right through to, you know, what SKUs you've got on your store, how things are looking, you know. So going from Shopify Magic, which is the brain, they've unlocked Sidekick, which is your LLM. It's your assistant that is kind of plugged into the store that you can interact with. Now, I've seen it work in a few different ways, but where it's mainly focusing right now, which I find very interesting, is that that kind of data sidekick side of things to kind of give you insights into different things. But they've also unlocked it into their main channels as well. So things like creatives and editing the product creatives to be more standout-ish, I find really interesting, because we've had our own run-ins with creatives and AI and the way things look, and I think everyone can speak true to that. But also what it can do is just act like a general assistant, where you can ask it to create a discount code and it'll create it for you, and then you can kind of plug and play it into your strategy. It's started to be built into the email, Shopify email side of things as well. So they've really tried to encompass this AI across pretty much everything that they're doing. And I can only imagine it's going to get stronger the more data it learns and the more machine learning it does throughout this period to compound. I really found interesting as well that they've unlocked it into their customer chatbot. So Where's My Order, for example, no longer needs a poor VA potentially sat behind the other side of the screen following up with, you know, Royal Mail or Hermes, that was a throwback, Every, or, you know, whatever. That's because I've sat in that role before. I have been a customer service assistant for Misguided, and Hermes was the biggest bane of my life. But, you know, it can go and find that tracking information itself, and then it can go and report that back. So you're not dealing with the little annoyances, if you like. You've got like almost like a little bit of a partner there that you can start to use and utilize. And I think this is only the beginning. And adding this kind of concept into the SEO revolution, AEO. I'm not even going to go into all the acronyms.
All the EOs.
Yeah, EOs. And all that kind of jazz. Coupled with that and the fact that Google Gemini has unlocked being able to be like pay within the platform, I think we're seeing a very important shift in customer journeys. So you've got your Sidekick and you've got your SEO, AEOs, all your EOs side of things as well, which are kind of working in tandem. And I think this is a wider conversation.
So in terms of, obviously we're here to kind of talk about this month in particular, like stress-related things.
Yeah.
Is Shopify almost trying to remove the mundane tasks from the Shopify founders' workload? Is that what it is?
I think you can say that, right? Because obviously that is one of the things on a basic level we all want to use AI for, to get rid of those little annoyances of, you know, maybe uploading a spreadsheet and it can learn and then it just spits out what it can see and then you're getting given data, or, you know, that it's simply replying to a customer on where their order is. Those little tasks that may take you out of that overall thinking and workload management of the bigger things that come in when you're owning a brand, I think is what they're trying to achieve with Sidekick. But what I think they're actually deeper trying to achieve with the tool itself is trust with AI.
Oh, okay.
Because what I think is trying to happen is, okay, you use this tool, it's giving you your data, it's giving you your research, you're interacting with it on a daily basis potentially, it's looking after your customers, it's optimizing your email flows, for example. Trust it. Allow it to kind of develop a strategy for your store. And I think that is what they're trying to achieve more than anything, is that trust element between like brand owner and Shopify itself.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. And I think, unfortunately for me right now, we've kind of been knee deep in, you know, the rebrand. And it's been like a lot of domain switches and all this jazz. So I've heard about Shopify Magic and Sidekick, but I've not had that opportunity to deep dive into it. And it sounds absolutely fascinating. Like, it does sound like it's unlocking kind of that capacity to offload, you know, not only the mundane, but to optimize your store further 100%. Too. So kind of beyond that admin then, what do you think Shopify is trying to achieve? Do you think it's making that transition towards AI shopping?
Yeah, I think this is where we're going, and I think we're markedly behind, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I think what has happened over the past few years, especially within the agency, is we've tried to, optimize ads to speak a certain way and attract a certain customer, and websites are letting like clients down, brands down. It can be really hard to manage and maintain a Shopify store when there's so many moving parts. And I think things like product pages, landing pages, collection pages are all going to become really core part of understanding how to appear in AI. And one of the fascinating things, and one of the things I would recommend to anyone right now, is product descriptions are phenomenal, like, of course, but one of the key things I think no one is paying attention to as much is your FAQs. Because how do LLMs work?
They're scouring for data, aren't they?
You're asking a question. You ask a question into it. Usually you make a statement or ask a question. And if your store can answer that, you're going to rank higher and higher. And then we can talk about the PR things that kind of plug and play into that, the trusted sources and all that stuff. We've been having amazing conversations about that. But when it comes to FAQs, I think it's very, very underutilized in, one, building brand trust with the potential customer that's on the other side of the screen, but the AI actually scouring and using what you're providing in those FAQs as an answer. Well, if you've got them bulletproof, then that's something you really want to work on. So I would actually start there first, and that's probably a controversial hot take, is with the FAQs, and then work backwards with your product description. Obviously, develop keyword strategy, bake that into everything, but read human as well, because I think a lot of people are kind of getting their backs up a little bit with that AI element being unlocked into every part. And please prompt your LLM to remove your M dashes, at least, please, because it drives me mad.
M-hate.
Yeah, M-hate.
We're not having it. I do. I think it's so interesting that you say that, because I've kind of been on a little bit of a hiatus, shall we say, from platforms like LinkedIn over the last couple of months, because it's the same thing. Everyone's portraying themselves through a lot of AI, and very quickly it becomes tired. So when you click onto like a store, for example, and it's all over the website, it's all over the social media, you can't help but feel a little bit tired by it, because it sounds like everyone else. And especially when it hasn't been prompted well. So obviously, it's quite clear that you're passionate about AI. How do you feel about it in terms of the way that Shopify founders are likely to use things like this?
I'm going to get into trouble here, but
I
feel like people can look for cheat codes, right? And they can get really lazy when AI is plugged into their business. And granted, at the beginning, when ChatGPT was first launched and we unlocked several parts of it within our agency, our SOPs were shocking. Like, looking back now, they were shocking, right? But it was quick and it was speed, and it got us a solid foundation to build upon. That laziness will only take you so far now. And I think where you're talking about being sick of social media, we've become full circle again. We're looking for authenticity. I was chatting to someone at the networking event, which wasn't the AI one, about people's just need and craving for human connection now. And I think that's becoming more prevalent than ever in this AI driven age. So how can you do that on a digital platform like your website and converse in a way that's still got that human element to it? Well, it's what I said before, isn't it? It's use AI to ideate, but don't let that stem your creativity for the brand that you love and you've literally designed and you're going to grow. Don't let your passion be lost being communicated through a robot. You can literally still control that AI to sound a certain way or help you in a certain way, but still add that human element. I mean, we're talking only, 3 years ago? Well, we were doing all this ourselves anyway, people were out there writing their own product descriptions, writing their own social media posts. It's almost alien now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone's using some kind of tool to help and support them with creative concepts or product development or anything like that. So I think we've really got to understand why we got in the game to begin with, find that passion and really push that passion through your brand. And I hear what you say about LinkedIn and social media, but opposite to you, I've been throwing myself in the deep end with it, right? And it seems that I've been connecting more with the people that are actually passionate about what they do, because they are active on the platform to find more people who are passionate. Yeah. So in the past few weeks, I've had amazing conversations with people who I really admire, actually, like from like, you know, a marketing standpoint, a brand owner standpoint. I've really just opened myself up to having conversations again and not just focused on churn. Like, I'm doing this to churn out content. I want to get my voice out there, but I want to speak to people as a human being. And I think that's very different than a lot of people will use these tools, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that's why we come full circle, isn't it? Because we basically just said authenticity. Authenticity is key, and trust also. Trust is a massive, massive component here. So I guess kind of stripping things back then away from Shopify, we've got ChatGPT, we've got Claude, we've got Gemini. If you're into creative, you've got Higgsfield, you've got FreePick. You know, we could sit here all day and go on about tech stacks. Manus, actually, forgetting a key one there. So what's the deal? Like, what should founders actually be paying attention to, and what should people be putting in the tech stack? Because it's a lot.
It's difficult to kind of like just paint everyone with one brush and say, like, this is what's going to work for you. At the end of the day, like, I've seen it all go from ChatGPT. It seems like there was a flood of like custom GPTs being made at one point, and the next minute it's all about Claude and, you know, the bots that you can build with Claude. And then it's like, by the way, you can just plug this tool and this tool and this tool, and you'll replace your 500K a year marketing agency, blah, 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 blah. And you can see the same thing being churned out on socials on what this can all do. And I think ultimately it's, as painful as it's going to say, it's those testing frameworks, you know? Use what you work with the most in your day-to-day business. I'll give you an example, right? I type quick, but I speak quicker, right? I've just downloaded this app called Whisper, right? And where I was writing, and it shocked me how much I was writing week on week. I now speak into this app and it writes it for me. And I have concise daily updates for my team to read. Concise, they're still lengthy, but I couldn't believe I was writing like 10,000 words on that part of my business alone. That part of my business alone. And I'm like, that's an essay.
Yeah.
Speaking of uni, like that was literally what we used to write as essays across a term. Do you know what I mean? So I think from that perspective, it's like that has massively beneficially changed the way that I can work quicker. I can optimize things quicker. I can speak. It feels more human because I'm speaking into it and the team can read it a lot easier versus me just typing something out, throwing it through ChatGPT, then putting it back into like the daily update. It just doesn't work. With the other bits and pieces, it really is what you vibe with the most, unfortunately. And you've seen that I've read so many books on AI now. I'm such a geek about it, and everyone starts out with ChatGPT or like one of the main ones, and then they kind of ideate into different things. But I think like there's something to be said when Meta has invested millions and billions into like their AI like departments. Same with Google, and it's using those tools that know how to intuitively react on an individual platform. I think is going to be the ones that end up having the most benefit, because you talk about Shopify Magic that has been built to kind of learn and understand your Shopify store. I've actually, confession, not played around with Manus yet because I was a bit like, this has come out of the blue so quickly. And by the way, this is being recorded a lot earlier than April. So probably by the time this goes out, I will have messed around with it. But that again, that connection and where there's powerful connections is so important. And then like Claude and the way that that's going to be interesting with Klaviyo, because that's like our preferred partner in email marketing.
I got so excited when I actually had a brief play on that last
crazy.
Week.
But what you don't want it to do is replace your thinking and your spin and your years of experience based on managing accounts, dealing with clients, understanding like the human nature, because that is fundamentally something that AI can't do. And it's something I'm seeing on repeat. And we actually hosted a whole team training session on how people chat with these AI bots, because of course they're built like chatbots, right? So you want to engage with them like a chatbot. But giving context is so important in those situations to the AI itself so it can learn and develop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's no one size fits all, but I think there's going to be longevity in those platforms that end up in integrating into things more that make your life easier.
Yeah, I was really, really expecting you to out me then on my AI usage and the fact that it was me being like, you're not understanding me, just do it right. AI, why are you not getting it? I was just like, please sort this out, like just raging at ChatGPT.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's prompt engineering. And
It's not a human. I mean, we do speak to them like the humans sometimes, though. I say please and thank you, and then I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh, that's just polite. Don't stop doing that.
It's very British, isn't it? Very, very British.
Yeah, don't stop doing that.
So in terms of, I mean, kind of going back to like the event that we went to last week, and I apologise, I feel like I'm dobbing people in here, but we had the woman that was with DWP state quite explicitly that their team were using AI. No.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was me again.
I'm panicked because I know where this is going. I'm absolutely panicked.
They were using free AI software and they were putting customer data into it. Now, for anyone that potentially isn't in the UK, DWP is the Department of Work and Pensions. So they were, and she used the specific example of universal credit. So it was benefits claimants.
Yeah.
And obviously some of these can be vulnerable adults as well as a result.
Yeah.
So that data was getting fed into AI and that was getting spoken about at a panel. And we were a bit like, oh,
the guardrails are down and the data's just being leaked.
It's not great.
I think from my side of things, and obviously this is going off the ecom side of things, but it does very much lean and bake back into that, is this is where humans become numbers and algorithms and they become just a demographic, right? And it seems like a sweeping statement to just sell someone's data into these platforms. But actually, it's so fundamentally dangerous that we need to be looking at the way that we're using this. And that is a government department, right? We've got to all be taking the responsibility as leaders in the space to be really careful and communicating when we're using AI and what we're using AI for, to set the expectation with clients who are paying your fees, who are, putting food in your mouth. You've got the responsibility to make sure that they're clearing things and you're not cheating. Yeah. And I think it is like cheating, So really making sure that you're getting your clients on board any brand on board with saying, this is what we're using your data for. This is how we're using it. Have I got your consent? I think over the next few years, what you're going to see is more rigorous laws around AI and that kind of path that I've just spoken about. Yeah. So if you're a brand owner, make sure you're using your customer data properly, because it's such a slippery slope. And in the UK and EU, we've got the GDPR laws and using data with consent. I think that is so fundamentally important. But interestingly, the other event I went to when AI got brought up, there's kind of this blurred line between what AI is. And we were talking about how AI has always kind of been built into something, but now it's been plastered with the AI label. And I think that is so fundamentally important to understand that this isn't a new concept. AI has been with us for years and years and years. It's just growing at an exponential rate now because the world has a demand to be quicker and speedier. Yeah. But doing that safely is going to be the challenge and kind of like the responsibility of us humans, not the robots themselves,
Yeah, I think that's what's quite funny, actually. It's that speed element. Like, we're all guilty of your Amazon Primes of the world, where you can quite frequently get like same day delivery as well, which is absolutely mental. And obviously AI is speeding things up more as well. And the reason why I mentioned the DWP example was like, it's kind of like a misuse of AI, really. So is there any examples that you can think of where you've kind of seen e-commerce really misusing AI and almost like those red flags that people should be really careful of?
I mean, on a fundamental basis, I've seen, AI spit out creatives that are just nowhere near. And I think Joe, our client success manager, sent in a ad that was Shein.
That was so bad.
And was it a high heel?
It was a high heel without a heel.
Without a heel and like a weird background, that because the AI, like that's Meta's AI as well.
Yeah.
Has fundamentally just changed the ad itself. And we've seen that like roll out. I mean, of course, we're deselecting it all. And I, we do want to lean into it, but when it's fundamentally not doing what we want it to do from a marketing standpoint, we're not going to do that. But we've seen, for example, a client's like assets where she was holding something and there was like the bottom of her face, and AI decided to stretch out this image and just make a face for her. And I was like, wow. And I was talking about that like it was funny almost, but then I was like, this is kind of dangerous on so many different levels. And we can go down the rabbit hole of creative, non-creative, but like photo concepts being used dangerously and without people's consent. That is just like so wrong.
It's not what we're
So
about.
on a fundamental level, that's where I've seen it go badly, like where we could probably like have a laugh and a joke because it is just like kind of light. But I've seen like, I think fundamentally brands just completely get swallowed into this AI vortex of everything that they're producing just seems to be through these bots and machines. And I'm just a bit like, there's no authenticity here. There's no way you're building trust with your target demo. Can you think of a few examples as well?
Off the top of my head, I am struggling. I have seen a few websites recently though where the copy has just been littered with M dashes. It reads like every other website out there. Like obviously that isn't a vibe. I've seen quite a few of those AI ads where they almost make like cartoons and things like that, and I find those a little bit tiring. I think that's just on a simple creative level though. I'm like, if you've got a nice brand, show it off.
Yeah.
Do not allow AI to take over and completely replace your brand with something that it thinks is going to sell.
Yeah.
Because the people on the receiving end of it are humans. They want something that feels human. You know, if you're selling a good or a service, they want whatever lifestyle that is going to give them. So don't do the cartoons. We're not selling like a really, really poor Disney film from the 90s. Like, it's not the vibe.
I think fundamentally these tools have been built with biases in them as well.
Yeah.
And this is a huge, huge like concern on where you're trying to like build your customer persona that you're not building in that kind of like bias into what you're trying to achieve as well. And really just stereotyping and pigeonholing people, because that can be a dangerous element of AI. Like you should really be trying to connect with your customer on every single level. It's why we go out networking. It's why we've got this podcast. It's why we've got our social media and we engage with brands through it. It's because we want to connect and we want to learn and we want that feedback loop, not necessarily even from just a sales aspect, but to understand and kind of have a pulse on what's happening in the industry. So when you're going like the complete opposite way of that, that is a cause for concern, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree. Kind of going back to the start then, in terms of like that stress, if we can kind of pinpoint like one thing in terms of like any platform, what would be an ideal one thing to incorporate into your workflow to alleviate a little bit of stress in terms of ecom founder?
Did we, or are we going to be releasing our ecom brain dump alongside this episode?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But that is what we're going to be doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, listen, it's a very rudimentary custom GPT where you download your brain and you upload it into the platform itself. But what it really allows you to do is brain dump and take that pressure off yourself. And if there's one thing I've learned about these tools, it's very good at being like a human. So it's almost like you're talking to your therapist or your counselor or your bestie or whatever you want it to be. So taking it out of your brain and downloading it into there, it'll give you an action plan based on like our custom GPT prompt that we've built into this to alleviate that pressure a little bit so that you can manage your stress levels a little bit more, because there's so many there's so many different bits and pieces that you have to be focusing on any business, even with AI, like taking the hard part away from you. So I think like using that, like that's a little bit of a shameless plug, but also understanding how you can make your personal life easier outside of business through these tools as well. I mean, I can sense my data being uploaded into ChatGPT every single week when I upload my bank statements to understand exactly like where I'm at in terms of financials and what I need to do over the next week. Oh, I forgot about the shopping list, or like what, you know, and using it as an active tool to do that. So while we've been speaking obviously quite in depth about all these tools and how they're going to plug and change your business, looking after yourself with these tools as well could be like fundamental to like your personal growth.
Yeah, I can do you one worse with the personal data and AI, to be fair. I literally have, and I call it therapy bot. And it's like, and if my therapist is listening, you're not, just ignore me.
You can.
I literally, we both did it together actually. We did a like brain dump exercise that was recommended by our social media coach, and it kind of built this personality profile about me. And now when I'm having days where I'm just struggling and I don't necessarily want to access a human because I'm like, do you know what, I have got this by myself, but I kind of want to contextualize things in my head and I want to take that load off a little bit. I just go over to Therapy Bot and I'm like, hi, why can I not make a decision on this today? And it kind of gives me an answer, but it speaks to me in a really human way. And obviously I don't necessarily recommend that in a replacement for therapy. People that need therapy should get to therapy, but I do think it has its place in terms of like those really small things as well. And obviously, as you said, just freeing up your bandwidth sometimes can just be so beneficial, and that can be one of those things that just takes that stress off your plate a little bit.
Yeah, I think it can't replace human connection.
No.
And I don't think it will. I think we're seeing the rise of people actively fighting against it, in seeking for that human connection. I just think it's getting to the point now where it could be a very slippery slope for people. And we're like, to go on a complete tangent, but like quite a serious one. We talk about like the age restrictions being put on porn in this country, for example. Are we going to see that being unlocked in AI? We're going to get age restrictions in social media that are going to be much more ruthless. Like, is this going to start to unload into different kind of ways of like control from a government perspective? And if you've loaded all your data into there, how much control do they have over you? And I'm not going to pretend to be like the AI expert, but all data is sellable, right? Yeah. So if you've got a ChatGPT, Claude, whatever account, and you're loading it and loading it and loading it, and you're allowing this machine to learn off your data gets sold on to God knows what. Let's just speak about personal ads to bring it back in a bit. Then you're going to be like in a very like narrow-minded universe within your own like experience online. And what I fail to see these bots provide is really good perspectives from all angles, so you can learn and grow and develop who you are as a human being. They're always very over like kind to your opinion, no matter how you're feeling. Like if you're really angry and you've got to go and vent, it'll usually validate you first and try and take you on that journey with it, versus showing you a kind of well-rounded scope, which is what your brain like you should be training your brain to do, to become a better and more empathetic human being. That's what I think these tools lack, because they're not human.
Yeah.
It's not got empathy. It's not human. Like it feels like it has empathy because it's talking in a certain way, but it's not building and developing your empathy. It's just showing you an empathetic ear during that period. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So long story short, stop saying please and thank you to them. They're not humans.
Oh, if that's your one takeaway from this, then go ahead, take that one.
Okay, then let's get things wrapped up. But first of all, I want to ask like one key question. I feel like we did it a few episodes ago, and I actually really love this question: AI in e-commerce, yay or nay? If you can summarize it.
I'm gonna say yay. It's a big yay. It's time that the small business owner gets something put back in their court. We've had detailed targeting ripped away through a bunch of different ad platforms. Just yay it and be careful with it. Yeah. Remember, you're the reason why your business started. You were the brains behind it. Now, like, harness that AI to speed your growth, but don't let it replace you and your thoughts and your vision, because you being human is so like imperfectly perfect. That's what you bring to the table.
Yeah. So pinch of salt it.
pinch of salt it.
Pinch of salt it. Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me about all things AI today. I feel like I've kind of left this a few IQ points smarter than I came into it.
That's good to hear.
I don't know though. Amazing. So next week we're going to be talking about all things stress spending. So that'll be stress spending, panic discounts, and kind of like reactive behaviour in the ecom space. So
love that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, let's jump into it next week.
Are we going to sign off the way that we sign off team meeting?
Let's sign off the way we sign off team meeting.
Let's do it.
There was times when I was more panicked than the client, to be quite honest with you.
When founders are starting to feel that pressure, how does that start to manifest in their brand?
We've been in situations as an agency where we're like, oh, we're having a quiet month. Like, should we do this? Should we do that? Should we launch this? Should we add this as a service?